Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back, students. We had our interesting lesson, which was about comparing. Now, I hope that you applied the idea of comparatives and using actually the comparative form in different sentences, showing results. Now, this is something that we can apply, as I mentioned before, in our everyday lives. Now, we're going to just revise what we took in our lesson. We had our lesson, which was the form, meaning, and function. If you remember the conversation that we had between the two boys, and we did mention something about adjectives and what is the meaning of adjectives. We had the idea of comparing in our lesson, and we did mention that there are three kinds of comparison. We have the comparative degree, the superlative degree, and also the positive degree. We did our examples here. As you can see that there is the structure of the short adjectives and long adjectives for comparatives and superlatives. We also mentioned irregular adjectives here, as you can see. We also explained the idea of positive comparison. And we're here. We have our homework. Now we have the homework on page number 64. Now I gave you a chance just to open your books and to read and explore what is the exercise that you have here, because actually it is an easy exercise. There is no specific answer here. So the idea was just to compare. Now we are going to do it together here. You can see that we have the instructions. We have here write sentences about the animals using comparative and superlative structures. Now, this takes us back to our first unit, Unit 1, when we talked about fearsome animals and we have predators. If you remember that we talked about symbiotic teams, and there were animal teams actually. For example, we have here the animals. We can say that there is the camel, we have here cat, cheetah, there's the donkey, eagle, elephant, goldfish, horse, ostrich, snake, tiger, and lion, and of course much more. So we are going to just use the examples that we have in the book here. We are going to compare as the book instructs us to, using the comparative and superlative. So we are going to use one-time superlative sentences or comparatives, and we're going to also use comparative degrees. So we have here, first of all, number 1, cheetah, and the tiger and the lion all together. So how can you compare between the three animals? You can see that they are all three fearsome animals. They are all predators. So what can we say? For example, the tiger is as dangerous as the cheetah and the lion. Now, this is something surprising here, that I used something totally different here. I can say that the tiger or the lion is the most dangerous, or I can use the positive degree as well and say that it is as dangerous as the cheetah, and we have here the lion. Now, here we have a correct form for comparing. Here we have camel, donkey, horse, and elephant. Now, I am looking forward to knowing what are your thoughts and how can you make this type of comparison interesting. So we have here, we're going to see that we have the elephant is the most enormous among the group mentioned. So this is the easiest sentence that we can come up with. The elephant is the most enormous among the group. I chose enormous, a long adjective, and I added the most before it. We have here the ostrich and the eagle. Now we can say that they all are from the bird types, but how can I compare? We can say that the ostrich's sight. Do you remember when we talked about the ostrich in our first unit and said that it has poor eyesight, the opposite, it has very strong eyesight. Or accurate, we can say. Now, the ostrich's eyesight isn't as good as the eagle. Now, we did say that, or we did mention that it has stronger eyesight than the zebra, but comparing it to the eagle The ostrich's eyesight isn't as good as. Now here, you can notice that I used the positive degree in comparing, but I added negative. We have here isn't as good as, which cancels the idea of positive here. We have the bear and the snake. We can see, for example, we have here as predators, using our vocabulary. As predators, the snake is sneakier than the bear. We have simple comparing here. Sneakier than, sneaky is an adjective, than what? Than the bear. And we have number 5, to use your own idea. You can compare between these animals in different ways. So this is the first exercise that we have. Now in B, imagine you are a contestant on a TV quiz show. Work with a partner, ask and answer the questions. So the book asks you to just imagine that you are in this kind of contest or a game, you are a contestant, and you are going to answer and actually ask also. So we have here on page number 64, we are going to play like a game. So just to get in the mood of the contest or the game here, we have here to choose a number. So let's choose together. Help me with it. We have here, for example, let's say number 2. Now we have here 2. You can see that there's nothing. We are free without a question. So let's go back to the first one we have here. Let's choose number 4. Now number 4, what do we have? What's the hottest place? Now here you can see that the question is also in a superlative form. What's the hottest place? So can you guess? We have here, we are going to write our comparative form or the superlative form in the sentence, the structure. We have here Dalul, Ethiopia, annual average temperature is 93.2 degrees or 34. Yes. Let's also choose here. We can say that we have here. What's the most populated city? So we have here most populated city. Just think about the question. What's the most populated city, which is Shanghai, China. Going back, we have here, let's choose this time 8. We can see that we have here, what's the largest lake by size? We have here, for example, okay, so we have here in Asia, Europe, there is the largest lake. So we have here, these are just examples. You can see that all of the questions, and you can also add the sentences in the superlative. Now moving on, we are going to use comparatives. So what's new here? We have words connected with space and the planetary system. If we remember that we have the table, as we mentioned. So we have choose. Now, in your book, we have here C, use the chart above to find information about the planets. Choose the correct word to make true facts about our solar system. Now let's just read. We have here some planets are much bigger and farther away from the sun than others. Jupiter is by far the, so since I have here by far the, we have biggest or hottest, and Mercury is the blank. We have your smallest and coldest, sorry. So going back to the table that we have in the book, and you can just compare and see the sizes and the distances that are mentioned. You can choose that we have here the biggest, and Mercury is the smallest in our solar system. Mars is, what did you find the answer is? Farther from the sun than Earth. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. It is so close to the sun that if you stood on the surface of the planet, the sun would appear at least 3 times larger than it does on Earth. So if you just use the table here, you can check your answers with me, and you can find that we agree on the same adjectives based on the table that we have in the book. Moving on. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are all rocky planets, as we read in the last lesson. But Earth is the only one that is inhabitable, which means that people, animals, and plants live on it. So if you had any question, the meaning of inhabit or inhabitable, now you know that it means that there are living creatures on the planet. Moving on, Venus is only slightly smaller than Earth and has many high mountains and volcanoes. Venus is so close to the sun that the land is, we can see, hotter than boiling water. So you can just check your answers here. You can just make sure that you have the same correct answers that I have here. And of course, we agree that it is based on the table that we have in the book. Completing. Mars is a, what is it, rocky or icy? We can know that we have here, it is a rocky planet that is known as the red planet because of the red color of the planet's surface. Mars is almost half of the size of Earth. The four farthest away from the sun are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. They are very cold, and what did we say in the book? They are also icy. So we have here, these are the adjectives mentioned. Completing also in the book, we have here Jupiter's 4 largest or smallest moons. Of course, we have here largest. Were observed in 1610 by an Italian astronomer called Galileo. We have here Galilei. Saturn has the least or most spectacular ring system. We can see that it has the most spectacular ring system of all the planets. There are 7 rings made up of dust, rocks, and ice. We have here more than 40 spacecrafts have explored Saturn, but only one has visited Uranus and Neptune. Neptune is the, we have here farthest or closest. Yes, we agree that it is the farthest from the sun and makes a complete orbit around the sun in about 165 Earth years. So we have completed our exercise here. We have finished the exercises that we have in the book in the lesson of the form, meaning, and function. Now, we are going to move on to the last part, which is going to be the project of our unit. Now, like each unit, when we finish, we have the project. Just to remind you that the project in each unit relates to the unit's main topic. So this time it is going to be interesting. It's going to be about movies, and we have the formula of movies and genres. It is an activity in which you cooperate to perform a directed task, and do not forget also that we are going to work as a team. So what do we have? Now you are going to gather your ideas and we are going to produce. Now here, let's produce. You are going to just imagine yourself as a producer of a movie, and you're going to see how can you produce some kind of movie here. Now this is something interesting that we are going to do as a project, but first, let's just read the objectives that we have. Now, number 1, to compare using comparative degrees, which we have done. Enumerate different kinds of movie genres in preparation of a storyboard. You have number 3, to research about different elements needed. Number 4, to prepare and present your project figure. And number 5, to apply structure, forms, vocabulary, and phrases that have been learned throughout the unit. So as usual, we are going to mix between everything that we have learned and put them in our idea. So what do we have here? In order to be producers, we need a storyboard. Now this is a storyboard that we have. We are going to use it, and we're going to know how. So be ready to be creative, and just imagine together as a team that you are going to produce a movie together. So what are we going to do? Now, first of all, we are going to learn what is a storyboard. Now, you can just see the picture. If you would like that, I can just go back to the picture here. And you can see that we have here different boxes, and there are lines below the boxes here. Now, there is something above. We have here the production company, production title, the date, and page. Now, this is just an example for a storyboard. Now, coming to what exactly does this mean? A storyboard is necessary for any production that involves actors, actions, and script, what the actors or people are expected to say. So this is something that we have here that we're going to use. Now, when certain kinds of films, such as documentaries, are being planned or designed, a storyboard is created. Now, a storyboard includes representative scenes and notes and comments. So we are going to use the storyboard. We are going to learn how now. As you can see that there are different pictures. We have here comments as well. Now, what are you going to do? You are going to think about the most important events and times of a famous figure's life. So we are going to agree that we are going to produce a documentary. So you can choose any influential person, as we talked about or discussed in Unit 2. And just imagine that you are going to take this influential figure or the person that you admire, and you're going to write or produce a movie about this person. So what are you going to do? You are going to just collect the important events and also the times of a famous figure's life that you can present in a documentary and make notes in the chart. Now, this is something interesting to know, that we are connecting and linking between our units that we have studied. So instead of just moving on, we are now going back. We are taking what we have learned in Unit 2 and we are applying it in our Unit 4. So what are we going to do? We are going to use the chart that we have here. The chart, you can see that we have here the age. Of course, we have here. Now, as we mentioned, when we talked about influential people, that we talked about their youth and what they did when they grew up and what did they accomplish. So you are going to do the same. You're going to choose your figure. We have here the ages from 0 to 10. So from birth to 10 years. We have also from 11 to 15 as young children or teenagers actually. After that, from 16 to 20, completing their teenage age here. And we have here over 20. And we have in the other side the important events and times. So if you remember the figures that we talked about, how they started poor or in different circumstances and then they changed their lives. So we are going to focus on these events here. Now you are going to write the documentary here. You are going to just have the title here, the events in a famous figure's life. We have here the student's name. Okay, you are going to be the producer, so you're going to write your names. Of course, you're going to use the storyboard framework below. Write the script commentary of the documentary under comments and what will be happening in the scene under action. So actually, you do have a storyboard in your book. We have the same as we have here. You are going to use the panel. We have also the footage here, and you are going to also apply a picture. So since we are doing a project together, we want to make it creative and something interesting to see. And after that, we have here, of course, comments and action. So how can we start with our storyboard? Of course, instead of starting immediately with the storyboard, we are going to do something very simple at the very beginning. We are going to use a large sheet or cardboard to create a realistic storyboard. So it's not just using a small sheet or a simple piece of paper. You are going to make it on a big poster, on something creative, a large cardboard, and you're going to design the storyboard that you have. Now draw and or use photos or parts of photos and drawing for the scenes. So as you can see in the picture that there are different drawings for each scene. Transfer your script and action notes into the storyboard. You can write your notes by hand or word process them. Use a font that is easy to read. Now, actually, there are millions of fonts that you can use. Now, you can use a font that is easy to read and also something that is attractive to see. Present your storyboard in class. Now, this is going to be the last part here. What will help you? Now, there are ways to make this easier for you. Now, we do have our questions here. Where will each person stand in the picture and what will they be looking at? Now, this is a question that you can just discuss with your classmates, with your team. What will they be wearing? Now, it depends on your documentary. Who else is going to be in the scene? Also, it depends on who is the person that you are talking about or you are presenting here. Is he or she going to enter the frame scene halfway through or from the beginning? So you are going to just imagine that you are designing the complete movie, but of course it is based on real actions and real events that happened. Completing the questions that we have in mind. Which lines will the narrator or the person, people involved deliver? Now you are the people who are going to deliver. Now you are going to put in mind what are the lines that you are going to apply and write under each picture. What kinds of emotions are involved? What kind of props are going to be used? What will the background be and what is the setting? What is the set going to look like? Now, all of these questions you are going to discuss together as a team because you are going to produce. Now, we said that we are going to be producers. So these are important parts that any producer has to put in mind and you are going to work on them together. Now, how can you evaluate? We have lots of projects that can be presented, so you can use here like a table here. Now, this is going to be just like a checklist here to make sure that you have everything applied, and then after that you can just make sure before you present it to the other people around you or the other teams that you have everything, so you can evaluate yourself before someone evaluates you. Now, there is the action. The action, is it interesting, boring, fairly interesting, interesting or amazing? We have here the script. Is it clever, too long, too short? Is it natural, artificial, or too predictable? People, are they realistic? Are they interesting? Are they strong, representative, original, etc.? Acting. Now, what is the acting? Is it very good, average, needs improvement? We have the direction. Is it very good, clever, creative, original, uninspiring, etc.? The setting. Is it minimal but realistic, or it could be improved, inventive, or original? And we have here the picture. Does it have good frames, focused, brilliant, not focused enough, unclear, does not present actions, realistically presents actions, and so on. Now here, this checklist, you can just make sure of your project before, and does this apply? You can choose whatever you find suitable for what you have presented. Now you can see that we have here, we can just check mark all our parts. And we have reached our end. Now, before we end our project, we can just make sure that we are working as a team, and you can just divide the different parts that we have here, and you are going to present together as a team in your next lesson, inshallah. So we are going to just revise very quickly what are the parts that we studied in our unit here, Unit 4. Now, what did we study? We studied the listen, discuss about name the TV film, if you recall, and we have your vocabulary check. Now, do you remember when we guessed what are the names of the movies that we read about and listened to? Also in the grammar, we had the paired conjunctions. Now we had different conjunctions. We have coordinating and paired. We also shortened clauses. The conversation was about agreeing and disagreeing. And of course, we had our real talk part. The listening that we had and pronunciation was an interview from a TV show about interior design, if you recall. And we had the pronunciation part about linking vowels. We studied also new vocabulary and the vocabulary building. We had the reading, which was about the formula behind detective stories on TV. And also we had the speaking part as well. We had the last lesson, the writing lesson, which was about writing an expository essay about a film genre. And we had our form, meaning, and function about comparatives, superlatives, positive degrees, and words related to space. And today's lesson, which was the project, we have here creating a storyboard that I am sure that they will be creative and amazing. So we have come to the last part, which is going to be the self-reflection. Of course, we self-reflected in all the units before, Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. Coming to our end here, we have here the objectives of the self-reflection: to practice speaking skills in class, assess performance based on indicators, and track learning progress. So you can see on page number 61, we have the same table as we have had or discussed before. We have the things that I liked about Unit 4. You can just write down the notes, or the things that you didn't like very much. Things that I found easy in Unit 4, you can also write here, or the things that you found difficult. We have the check table here. As usual, we have, I can do this very well, I can do this quite well, and I need to study or practice more. So we have here to talk about TV films and documentaries. Actually, it was very interesting and easy. Identify genres of TV films also. Agree and disagree with opinions. Use both and not only, but also either or, neither nor. We have also use independent clauses with and but, or so and yet. All of these, we can use them in sentences. So this was quite easy to apply. We have to use comparative and superlative forms of adjectives, and to talk more about space and the planets. So we can find that Unit 4 was actually an interesting unit to study. We have here our last part, which is to mention 5 favorite words from Unit 4. And if you're not or still not sure about some things, you can, as usual, read through the unit again, listen to the audio material, study the grammar and functions from the unit again, and ask your teacher for help. So we have achieved our 4 and completed our 4 units. We are going to move on to our expansion in our next lesson, inshallah. Our outline for our lesson: we had the brainstorming, researching, and discussing how to prepare a storyboard, connected ideas and main points, and formed a symbiotic team together by distributing roles and form a complete storyboard. We have the self-reflection to think back, evaluate yourself on topics, tasks, and language presented and practice in the unit. We have, alhamdulillah, completed our unit, Unit 4. We are going to start with our revision, and we have self-reflection and evaluation in our next lessons, so be ready.